The 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test shattered my world into a million pieces. At 18, standing in my parents' pristine bathroom, I felt my carefully planned future crumbling around me. Stanford acceptance letter on my desk, volleyball scholarship secured, and now, this. My hands trembled as I walked downstairs to face my parents. Mom was arranging flowers in the living room, humming softly. Dad sat in his leather armchair reading the newspaper. The perfect suburban picture of an upper-middle-class family about to be destroyed by their daughter's news. "Mom, Dad," my voice cracked. "I need to tell you something." The next few minutes played out like a nightmare. Mom's flowers crashed to the floor, water seeping into the expensive carpet. Dad's newspaper crumpled in his clenched fists. Their faces transformed from confusion to horror to rage. "Pregnant," Mom whispered, as if saying it louder would make the neighbors hear. "What about Stanford? The scholarship? Everything we've worked for?" "I can still go," I said quickly. "Maybe defer for a year." "No." Dad's voice cut through the room like ice. "No daughter of mine is going to be a teenage mother. You have 2 options, get rid of it or get out." I instinctively wrapped my arms around my stomach. "I'm keeping my baby." "Then you're dead to us." The words fell from my mother's lips without hesitation. "Pack your things and leave. You have 1 hour." 1 hour. 18 years of life in that house, and they gave me 1 hour to pack it all away. I grabbed what I could, some clothes, my laptop, the emergency cash I'd saved from summer jobs. As I hauled my bags downstairs, my younger sister Sophia watched from her doorway, tears streaming down her face. "Emma, please," she begged. "Just do what they want. Don't leave." But I couldn't. Something inside me knew this baby was meant to be mine, even if it cost me everything. My parents didn't even look up as I walked out the door. No goodbye, no last words of advice or anger. Just silence. The kind of silence that speaks louder than screams. I had $3,427 to my name, a baby on the way, and no idea what to do next. Standing on the sidewalk outside my childhood home, I pulled out my phone and called the only person I could think of, my grandmother. "Come stay with me," she said without hesitation. "Your grandfather and I have plenty of room." Grandma and Grandpa Martinez lived 2 hours away in a modest house filled with the smell of fresh bread and coffee. They'd immigrated from Colombia decades ago, built a small bakery business, and raised 3 children including my mother. Now they were my only lifeline. "I'm so sorry," I sobbed into Grandma's shoulder when she opened the door. "I've ruined everything." She pulled back, holding my face in her weathered hands. "No, mi amor. You haven't ruined anything. You're just starting a different journey than the one you planned." That night, lying in their guest room, I made a promise to myself and my unborn child. This wouldn't be a story of failure. It would be a story of transformation. The next morning, I woke up early and went downstairs to find Grandma in her tiny home office, surrounded by papers and receipts from their bakery. "Sit," she said, patting the chair next to her. "Let me teach you something about business." For the next 7 months, between doctor's appointments and prenatal vitamins, Grandma taught me everything she knew about running a successful small business. How to manage inventory, handle payroll, spot opportunities for growth. Grandpa taught me about quality control and customer service. Their bakery, Sweet Dreams Panaderia, wasn't just a shop. It was a community hub. Customers came for the fresh bread and pastries but stayed for the warmth and connection. "The secret," Grandma would say, "isn't just in the recipes. It's in making people feel like family." I absorbed everything, filling notebooks with ideas and observations. Even as my belly grew, my mind expanded with possibilities. I started helping at the bakery, learning every aspect of the operation. The regular customers got used to seeing me there, my pregnant form moving between tables, always with a notebook in hand. My daughter Lily was born on a warm spring morning, perfect and healthy. As I held her in my arms, those earlier feelings of shame and failure melted away. Looking at her face, I saw only possibility. 2 weeks after Lily was born, I was back at the bakery, baby strapped to my chest, learning and planning. Grandma and Grandpa watched with knowing smiles as I developed my first business plan. "Sweet Dreams is wonderful," I told them one evening, "but I see a bigger opportunity. What if we could deliver this feeling, this sense of home and connection on a larger scale?" I showed them my notebook filled with calculations and projections. A business model that would combine the warmth of a local bakery with the efficiency of modern technology. An app that would let people order fresh, artisanal bread and pastries for delivery, while still maintaining the personal touch that made sweet dreams special. It's ambitious, Grandpa said, studying my plans. But ambition runs in your blood. They didn't just support my idea. They became my first investors, offering their life savings of $50,000 to help me start. We believe in you, Grandma said simply. I named my company Homemade Hearts. The concept was simple. Partner with local bakeries to provide them with technology, marketing and delivery infrastructure, while maintaining their unique recipes and character. Each location would feel as personal as sweet dreams, but with the convenience modern customers craved. Working from my grandparents' spare room with Lily napping nearby, I built the first version of the Homemade Hearts app. Every night after closing the bakery, I wrote code and developed marketing strategies. During the day, I talked to other local bakeries, convincing them to join our network. The first year was brutal. Juggling a baby, a startup, and part-time work at Sweet Dreams pushed me to my limits. There were nights I cried from exhaustion, wondering if my parents had been right about me being a failure. But slowly, steadily, things began to work. Our app launched in 3 cities, partnering with 20 family-owned bakeries. The reviews were overwhelming. Finally, real bakery bread delivered to my door. It's like having a grandmother's kitchen in my phone. Best thing since sliced bread, pun intended. As word spread, more bakeries wanted to join our network. Investors started calling. By the time Lily turned 2, Homemade Hearts was operating in 10 cities, with over 100 partner bakeries. I moved out of my grandparents' house and into a small apartment, but came back every Sunday for family dinner. Lily grew into a toddler, then a preschooler, surrounded by the love of her great-grandparents and the sweet smells of success. My parents? I heard nothing from them. Through Sophia, who secretly kept in touch, I learned they had told everyone I was away at school. They erased me from family photos, from conversations, from their lives. But that was about to change. Because after 5 years of hard work, Homemade Hearts had just been valued at $40 million. And tomorrow my family would be walking into my office, not knowing the CEO they were desperately hoping would save their failing catering business was the daughter they had thrown away. I stood at my office window watching the city wake up below. In an hour, my parents would walk through those doors, not knowing they were about to meet the daughter they'd erased from their lives. Ms. Martinez? My assistant Diane appeared in the doorway. Your daughter's on FaceTime. I smiled, accepting the call. Lily's face filled my screen, her dark curls wild from sleep. At 12, she was already showing signs of the strong woman she would become. Good luck today, Mom, she grinned. Show them who's boss. Thanks, baby. Are you being good for great-grandma? Of course. She's teaching me how to make pan de yuca. Did you know it was the first recipe she learned to make? My heart swelled. While my parents had thrown us away, my grandparents had given Lily the kind of childhood most people only dream of, full of love, wisdom, and the smell of fresh bread. Ms. Martinez? Diane reappeared. They're here. I ended the call with Lily and took a deep breath. How do they seem? Nervous. Your mother keeps smoothing her dress and your father's checking his watch every 30 seconds. Your sister looks like she might throw up. Perfect. Let them squirm. I took the private elevator down to the conference room floor. Through the glass walls I could see them, Mom in her expensive suit, Dad clutching his portfolio, Sophia fidgeting with her wedding ring. They had no idea their precious elite catering was about to be saved or destroyed by the daughter they'd called dead. I pushed open the door and time seemed to freeze. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Dad's portfolio slipped from his fingers, papers scattering across the floor. Sophia actually gasped. Hello, I said calmly, taking my seat at the head of the table. I'm Emma Martinez, CEO of Homemade Hearts. Shall we discuss your proposal? Emma. Mom whispered, face pale as chalk. But I'm supposed to be dead to you? I smiled coolly. Surprise. Dad seemed to recover first, his business instincts kicking in. Now see here, we didn't come to dredge up ancient history. We're here to discuss a potential partnership. No, I cut him off. You're here because elite catering is failing. Your outdated business model and overpriced services are driving customers away. You've lost 60% of your corporate accounts in the last year alone. Sophia looked at me in shock. How do you know all this? Bez, I've been watching your decline for months. Did you really think Homemade Heart's expansion into corporate catering was a coincidence? The color drained from Dad's face as realization hit. Every major client they'd lost had switched to Homemade Hearts. I had systematically dismantled their business, piece by piece. But your company... Mom stammered. The news said it's worth $40 million at last valuation, I finished for her. Though that's likely to double after our next funding round. Quite a success for a teenage mother, wouldn't you say? Dad's jaw clenched. What do you want? To humiliate us? To rub our faces in your success? Actually, I opened my laptop. I'm here to offer you a choice. I turned the screen to face them. Option 1. Homemade Hearts acquires Elite Catering. We absorb your remaining clients, retain some of your staff, and you walk away with enough money to retire comfortably. Option 2. We continue our expansion, take the rest of your clients, and you lose everything. You would destroy your own family's business? Mom asked incredulously. I met her eyes steadily. You made it very clear 12 years ago that I wasn't family. Sophia started crying softly. Emma, please. We were wrong. I've regretted not standing up for you every day since Dash. Save it, I said sharply. This isn't about revenge. It's business. You have until the end of the day to decide. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Oh, and one more thing. Lily, my daughter, the grandchild you've never met, she's the heir to Homemade Hearts. Everything I've built, I built for her. Remember that when you're making your decision. I turned to leave, but Mom's voice stopped me. Wait. Can we meet her? I looked back, seeing something I'd never seen before in my mother's eyes. Regret. That's not my decision, I replied. She's old enough to choose for herself. But know this, she has grown up surrounded by love, wisdom, and strength. Grandma and Grandpa Martinez made sure of that. Mom flinched at the mention of her parents, whom she'd barely spoken to since they took me in. The contracts are with my assistant, I said, reaching for the door. I suggest you read them carefully. Especially the part about who'll be running Elite Catering's operations after the acquisition. Dad's eyes widened. You mean... Yes. If you accept our offer, you'll be working for me. I smiled. How's that for family loyalty? I walked out, leaving them to stew in their decisions and regrets. In my office, I found a fresh delivery from Sweet Dreams Panaderia, Grandma's special pan de yuca, still warm from the oven. My phone buzzed with a text from Lily. Did you show them who's boss? I smiled, thinking of my parents' shocked faces, of the empire I'd built from nothing, of the daughter who would inherit it all. Yes, baby, I replied. I definitely did. Hours later, Diane brought me the signed contracts. Elite Catering was now part of Homemade Hearts. My parents had chosen survival over pride. That evening, I drove to my grandparents' house for our weekly Sunday dinner. Lily ran to hug me, flower in her hair from baking with Grandma. How did it go? Grandma asked, knowing exactly what today meant. I showed her the signed contracts. She smiled, tears in her eyes. Your grandfather would have been so proud. Grandpa had passed away last year, but his picture still watched over the kitchen where he'd taught me so much about business and life. They want to meet Lily, I told her quietly. Grandma nodded. And what does Lily want? I looked at my daughter, so strong, so loved, so different from the scared teenager I'd been. That's up to her to decide. Later that night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she asked, Mom, are you glad they kicked you out? I thought carefully before answering. No, baby. I'm not glad they hurt me. But I'm grateful for where that pain led me. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives become the foundation for our greatest achievements. She nodded thoughtfully. I think I want to meet them. Not because they deserve it, but because I want them to see what they missed. I hugged her tight, marveling at her wisdom. Tomorrow I would arrange a meeting. My parents would finally meet their granddaughter, not as a shameful secret, but as the heir to an empire built on love, determination, and the sweet smell of success. The teenage mother they'd thrown away had become the businesswoman they now worked for. But more importantly, I'd become someone my daughter could be proud of. Sometimes being kicked out of one family leads you to build something better. Your own empire, your own legacy, your own definition of success. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't making people regret their choices. It's thanking them for forcing you to make better ones.